A police officer investigates a sinister car that is wiping out every resident of the town and discovers that the vehicle is possessed by an evil entity that fears sacred ground. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie, The Car, from 1977. In the middle of a huge canyon in the United States, two cyclists, Peter and Susie, race along the road. After stopping at a bridge, the young woman decides to continue the race, but this time they have to go through a long tunnel and the first to cross the other side will be the winner. Peter accepts the challenge and the two go through the tunnel, without suspecting that a car, piloted by an unknown driver, is following them. After crossing, the two friends continue pedaling along the road, but soon realize that the car, a Lincoln Continental, is approaching them. Susie is nervous about this and everything only gets worse when the car positions itself side by side with the young woman on the road. Peter tries to help her, but the car presses her against a wall and finally pushes her over the edge of a huge gorge. Peter screams in horror as he sees his friend being wiped out, but there's no time to lose as the mysterious car is now on his tail. The young cyclist rides as fast as he can towards a bridge, but the car soon catches up and starts pushing him with its bumper. The cyclist does his best to get rid of the vehicle, but he too ends up being pushed off the bridge and falling off a huge cliff. Far away, Police Captain Wade Parent is woken up by his girlfriend Lauren to start another day at work. He asks her to stay a little longer, but Lauren refuses because she doesn't want Wade's daughters to see her with him yet. The young woman then leaves and Wade goes to the bedroom of his young daughters, Lynn and Debbie, to take them to school. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of town, a young musician called John Morris practices with his horn until he hears the couple, Amos and Bertha, fighting in the middle of the street. The young man sees the old man attacking his wife and tries to stop the argument, but when Amos threatens him, he changes his mind and gets back on the road. The musician then looks for a car that can give him a lift into town and, seconds later, he sees a vehicle approaching at high speed in the distance. John signals for a ride with his hands, but the car continues to accelerate and almost runs over the young man on the road. Annoyed, John starts shouting and insulting the driver, which causes the car to brake abruptly and start reversing towards him. It is soon revealed that the car is the same Lincoln Continental that hit the two cyclists and, to the musician's misfortune, he becomes its next target. The vehicle then continues to reverse and slams into John, who flies backwards due to the force of the collision. Not satisfied with this, the vehicle speeds towards the young man and runs over him with its wheels. Amos sees the tragic scene, but he can do nothing and the car speeds off down the road. Back at Captain Wade's house, he prepares to take his daughters out on his motorcycle, until he receives a call on his communicator. His police colleagues ask him to go to Amos and Bertha's house as soon as possible to investigate the case of the young musician. Minutes later, Wade arrives at the scene, where Sheriff Everett and other police officers are questioning the couple who witnessed what happened. Because of the dust raised by the car, Amos can't tell the model or license plate number, only that it was gray and that it ran over the young man twice. With no more information to identify the person responsible for the crime, the sheriff summons Wade and the police back to the station. There, he orders everyone to go out into the town in search of the criminal, because he doesn't want to let a man loose in his region. The agents accept the mission and start driving around the city, looking for evidence of the mysterious driver and his monster car. Meanwhile, Lauren is at school, rehearsing with the students for the musical performance of a march they're going to make through the city. However, the rehearsal is interrupted when Lauren is called in by the principal, who shows her a drawing of her made by a student. The principal doesn't like the content of the drawing, but Lauren says she'll talk to the student about it later. Shortly afterwards, Wade shows up at the school in his car, along with his colleague Luke, to talk to Lauren and see how her daughters are doing. However, they don't have time to talk, as the captain receives another call, informing him of yet another mysterious case involving the victim of the car. Wade answers the call and heads to the gorge, where the police team found the body of the young cyclist, pushed by the car. When they get there, Wade and Luke go to talk to the sheriff and, according to the evidence, Susie was with young Peter before she was eliminated. Because of this, he suspects that Peter is responsible for the crime, but Luke denies it, saying that he knew the young man from the church group he ran. What's more, he claims that Peter had a job interview in another city and therefore wouldn't be with Susie. Upon hearing this, Wade deduces that the real culprit was not Peter, but the same guy who eliminated John Morris. Seeing that the captain may be right, the sheriff orders his officers to set up roadblocks on all sides of the highway, so that no suspicious cars can enter or leave town. Along with this, he leaves Wade in charge of the investigation, and so the captain puts together a team of agents to carry out daily patrols around the city. With everything ready, Wade asks Luke if he's found out anything about Peter, but he informs him that, according to his mother, the young man is missing. Fearing that Peter has been another victim, he asks Luke to prepare the police station's weapons, while he takes another look at the evidence in the case. At the same time, Sheriff Everett is listening to the testimony of Bertha, who was again attacked by her husband in an argument. The sheriff shows feelings for Bertha and, after sending Amos to wait outside the police station, he tries to convince her to leave her husband and run away with him. However, despite being constantly attacked, the woman refuses the proposal and returns with her son to the car, where Amos is waiting for her. Seeing that his efforts to help Bertha have been futile, the sheriff decides to drop the matter and invites Wade to the bar. The captain accepts the invitation, but asks Everett to go first, as he is still analyzing the clues about the crimes in the town. The sheriff agrees and heads for the bar, but as he leaves the police station, he witnesses yet another argument between Amos and Bertha. The old man tells his wife to drive home because he's going to the bar to drink with his friends. Bertha leaves with her son, but as soon as Amos crosses the road to the bar, the Lincoln Continental turns on its headlights and drives towards him. Luckily for him, the old man manages to swerve in time, but the car keeps going and ends up hitting Sheriff Everett. Hearing the commotion outside the police station, Wade rushes to see what has happened and finds his sheriff friend lying lifeless on the ground. To make matters worse, the criminal has run off in a huff and all that remains is for the captain to confront Amos about what happened there. He demands answers and Amos says he didn't see the criminal, but that the car he used was the same one that eliminated the young musician near his house. This claim is confirmed by another witness, a lady of native origin, who has her testimony translated by the policeman called Chess. According to her, the perishments in the town are connected to a bad omen, predicted by her tribe in ancient scriptures. Wade doesn't pay much attention to this, but the perishments of his sheriff friend and the town's young people prove that she may be right. The next day, the captain, now in charge of the entire investigation, tries to comfort his colleagues and motivate them to keep looking for the criminal. The police officers then go around the city looking for evidence and, soon afterwards, Wade's assistant calls him to talk about his statement from the night before. She said that she also knew the native language and that some parts of the statement were not translated by Chess. According to the assistant, the woman had also said that when she looked at the car that hit Sheriff Everett, she realized that there was no driver in the vehicle. This information makes Wade and Luke even more intrigued, but before they can talk about it, they receive another call. This time, Peter's body has been found under the bridge and Wade decides to go there, but Luke is upset by the news and asks to stay at the police station. The captain accepts his request and goes to the bridge to check on Peter's body. At the same time, Lauren and her students are on the runway where the musical performance will take place, to do one last rehearsal. Along with them, one of the policemen sent by Wade ensures the security of the site, but he doesn't notice when a mysterious light is reflected on the horizon. Seconds later, a heavy sandstorm hits, interrupting the rehearsal and leaving the horses agitated. The policeman then tells everyone to run for the hills, but the man ends up getting in the way of the horses and is trampled by them. Lauren and the rest of the group continue to flee and, in the distance, the Lincoln Continental appears, fiercely advancing towards them. Then a group of cowboys show up to help them and try to lure the car away from the women and children. However, one of the students, along with his mother, ends up getting separated from the group and the car drives off towards them. The two are about to be run over, but one of the cowboys comes up behind them and manages to lure the car in the other direction. Thanks to this, the woman and her son manage to escape, but the car turns around and knocks the cowboy to the ground. The chase continues and Lauren leads everyone to an old cemetery at the top of the hill. Meanwhile, the rest of the cowboys try to stop the car, but one by one, they are knocked off their horses and eliminated by the possessed vehicle. Finally, Lauren reaches the cemetery and everyone hides among the trees and gravestones. The car drives towards the group, but for some mysterious reason it can't get through the cemetery gates. Lauren then goes to the entrance and confronts the driver, demanding that he show his identity. She even picks up a tree trunk and throws it at the car, calling the driver a coward and daring him to enter the cemetery. Faced with provocations, the car crashes into the cemetery wall, but it still doesn't dare enter the site. The car then starts to drive around the cemetery, just as Marge, one of Lauren's colleagues, comes out to ask for help. Luckily, she manages to get to the other side of the road without being hit by the car and finds the policeman's vehicle. When she gets there, she uses her communicator to tell the police station what's going on and her call is picked up by Wade, who immediately leaves for the cemetery. The captain then told the city's police to maintain roadblocks and to be vigilant in case the vehicle tries to flee again. Back at the cemetery, Lauren continues to provoke the driver, but when the police siren is heard in the distance, the vehicle flees the scene. Out of harm's way, everyone, including Wade's daughters, congratulates Lauren on her courage. Shortly afterwards, the captain arrives on the scene to see how Lauren and his daughters are, but he soon has to leave them because he has to go back to the police station. There, Wade receives a call from Officer Ray, who is blocking the road in the desert. He spots the monster car approaching on the horizon and points his shotgun in its direction. However, instead of accelerating, the car slows down and comes face to face with the policeman, as if challenging him. Even so, Ray is undeterred and fires at the car, but the shots miss the vehicle, which flees the other way. Ray reports everything that's happened over the comms, and Wade orders all the police officers on standby to go after the vehicle. Ray obeys orders and goes in search of the car, but his vehicle is slower than the Lincoln Continental and the policeman loses sight of it. Fortunately, he manages to catch up with it a few minutes later and sees the vehicle heading up a road that leads to a mountain. The policeman continues in pursuit and tells Wade that he will soon catch the suspect, as the mountain road has no exit. However, to his surprise, the monster car was waiting for him at the end of the road and Ray was forced to put the brakes on. The policeman tries to escape through the door, but the vehicle catches him with its bumper and starts pushing the car towards the cliff. The policeman begs for his life, but the car continues to push him, until the car is thrown off the road and Ray is eliminated by the explosion. Now all that's left is for Wade and his two police teams to capture the car and its driver. In the middle of the road, the two vehicles find the vehicle and stand side by side to prevent the car from getting past them. However, in an unexpected maneuver, the monster car makes a sharp turn and begins to roll over towards them. The policemen try to swerve, but the car flips over them, blowing up the vehicles, but coming out practically unscathed on the other side. Soon afterwards, Wade arrives at the scene on his motorcycle and sees the monster car heading straight for him. However, as soon as the captain aims his gun, the vehicle slows down and stops in front of him. Without hesitation, Wade fires at the vehicle, but even with his accurate aim, the bullets don't seem to hit the car. Still, he keeps his gun in his hand and approaches the vehicle, which suddenly opens its driver's side door. The captain then goes to investigate who is inside, but is hit by the car door, which knocks him to the ground and leaves him unconscious. Hours later, Wade wakes up in a hospital bed, next to Lauren and being attended to by the doctor who used to be Susie's father. Wade mourns the girl's perishment and promises to stop the monster car, but fears that the vehicle is indestructible. Shortly afterwards, he receives a visit from Luke and Chess and tells them that even though he fired 3 shots into the windshield and tires, none of the bullets had any effect. Unable to do anything for the time being, the captain asks Lauren to stay with his daughters tonight and asks Chess to accompany her home. The policeman then takes Lauren in the car, without realizing that, amidst the trees on the road, the monster car is watching them. A few minutes later, Chess leaves Lauren and says he's going to check on his wife and children before picking her up again. Lauren agrees and heads towards her house, but a strong wind causes a piece of paper she was holding to fly into the middle of the street. The young woman goes there, but the strong wind continues and she remembers that the same thing happened when the car chased her in the cemetery. She then quickly goes into the house and calls Wade, telling him that she has the feeling that the car is still chasing her. Unfortunately, this proves to be true when the monster vehicle smashes through the window of his house, knocking out Lauren and then escaping. Later, Wade arrives at the scene, along with Luke and Chess, and can't contain his sadness at having lost the woman he loved. Luke then confesses his suspicions that the monster car may be possessed by an evil entity. Wade thinks this is nonsense, but his friend says that this is the explanation for the vehicle not being able to enter the cemetery, a place considered sacred. Even though he remains skeptical about this possibility, Wade knows he has to stop the car anyway. So he goes back to the police station, gathers all the remaining officers and sends old Amos to help them, providing as many explosives as possible to destroy the car once and for all. With everything ready, the captain goes to the garage to get his bike, but to his horror, he sees the monster car parked inside. He tries to escape through the gates, but they are locked from the outside, and soon afterwards, the car starts up on its own and seems to be staring at Wade. Fearing for his life, the captain grabs a screwdriver to open the gates, but as he does so, the car rushes towards him to stop him. The car then starts to roar its engine and blow its horn, making a noise so loud that it shatters all the windows in the house. Even so, Wade tries to open the door once more and the car tries to run him over. Luckily, the policeman manages to swerve, climbs over the vehicle and jumps out of the garage window, landing next to his motorcycle. After that, Wade takes off on his motorcycle towards the highway, but the car drives through the garage gates and heads in his direction. A chase ensues and, to ensure the safety of the residents, Wade lures the car out of town and onto the road that leads to the desert. During the escape, the captain uses his communicator to tell Luke that he's going to lure the car towards the trap, as they agreed. However, the policeman warns him that it's still too early and that Amos, along with the other agents, haven't finished placing the explosives in the valley. Even so, Wade has no choice but to lure the car there and continues to flee. The chase intensifies, and even though the captain swerves his bike off the road, the monster vehicle continues to hunt him relentlessly. The captain then tries to buy enough time for his colleagues, and, when he reaches the valley, he challenges the car to one last duel. The vehicle accepts the challenge and advances towards Wade, who does his best to dodge the car and make it circle the valley. Seeing that Wade is in danger, the police decide to take the rest of the ammunition to another location to increase the blast radius. Meanwhile, the captain tries to escape up a hill, but his motorcycle stalls on the way up and he is forced to leave it and continue on foot. Wade then runs up the rocks and tries to climb the mountain, but the car starts crashing into the rocks in an attempt to cause a cave-in. The police throw Wade a rope to climb up, so the car gives up chasing him and heads for the top of the mountain. There are just a few more explosives to be placed, but with each passing second, the monster car gets closer and closer. Finally, the police finish placing the explosives and connect the reel to the detonator to blow everything up as soon as the car arrives. Wade manages to climb the mountain and Luke calls out to him so that the two of them can get away as soon as possible. However, the captain decides to stay close to the site of the explosion to ensure that the car comes after him and is lured into the trap. The two policemen then stand on the edge of the mountain, waiting for the monster car which, as expected, drives towards them. Wade waits until the last minute and, just as the vehicle is about to run them over, the two policemen swerve and the car speeds off towards the end of the mountain. At the same moment, Wade orders the explosives to be detonated and, before the car falls over the cliff, it is hit by a gigantic explosion. A huge curtain of fire spreads across the sky and the policemen watch in awe as a macabre figure emerges from the flames. However, the terrifying image disappears with the fire, leaving only dust and smoke. After this difficult confrontation, the police go to look at the valley, which is now completely covered in stones thrown up by the explosion. Luke, however, fears that the car has not been defeated, but Wade insists that they have succeeded and now everything is over. Finally, the cops watch the sunrise over the horizon, certain that they have avenged the perishments caused by the monster car. However, a few days later, on the streets of Los Angeles, a car drives by at high speed, emitting the same honking sound as the vehicle Wade faced. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.